The White House firing back at fired advisor Omarosa.
Legal action now possible over her secret Situation Room recording.
If I didn't have these recordings, no one in America would believe me. So yes, I had to protect myself, and I have no regret about it.
Dueling rallies in Washington, D.C. Counter-protesters greatly outnumbering the Unite the Right marchers.
What we saw today is the idea that people wanted to see a train wreck. Why was there not wall-to-wall coverage in Chicago about the people who are dying, in the street?
Republicans make a move to get more information about that salacious but unsubstantiated Steele dossier.
We need a special counsel to look at all things Department of Justice and FBI.
There are a lot of people who are saying the Democrats, they don't know what they're for.
Democrats are for the people. It's not that we don't know what we stand for. It's how do we convey the message.
Kevin Harvick hasn't had to do anything. He's led 108 laps from Michigan. He'll win again in the Irish Hills.
Welcome to the gang. We're all here on the couch. We've been waiting for you. Happy birthday, Rob.
Yeah, it's 35 today. Happy birthday, Rob. Glad you were born.
But also, 42-year-old Tiger Woods really stole the weekend from Rob.
Right.
Unbelievable to shoot a 64. And this is about a year ago. He couldn't get out of bed, could not play with his kids. Back injury, personal problems. We get it. But I think that was pretty amazing yesterday.
The comeback kid. You're right.
He was terrific. But Brooks Koepka.
Yeah,
was unbelievable.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Who should play middle linebacker for the Giants? He's the size of 10 golfers.
I think Brian and I were watching golf.
Yeah. Meanwhile, 1 minute after the top of the hour, we have 2 hours and 59 minutes to go. The White House is firing back at former advisor Omarosa Manigault Newman.
Legal action now possible over her secret Situation Room recording with Chief of Staff John Kelly.
Griff Jenkins is live in Washington, D.C. with the fallout. So, Griff, it sounds like she taped a lot of people at the White House, including in the Situation Room when she got fired.
And that could get her in trouble. Good morning, guys. And let's not forget that the president made Omarosa famous as the villainous reality TV star. Well, the former senior White House advisor is now trashing the president in a tell-all book.
Donald Trump is a con and has been masquerading as someone who is actually open to engaging with diverse communities. But when he talks that way, the way he did on this tape, it confirmed that he is truly a racist.
She says that the only regret she has is being complicit with deceiving the nation. And now another recording that you mentioned, Steve, is raising questions over whether she violated national security. A conversation secretly made inside the most secure place in the White House, the Situation Room, where cell phones, recording devices, and the like are strictly forbidden. Omarosa claims she was threatened by Kelly in that recording. Well, Sarah Sanders, in a statement, is firing back, saying, quote, "The very idea a staff member would sneak a recording device into the White House Situation Room shows a blatant disregard for our national security, and then to brag about it on national television further proves the lack of character and integrity of this disgruntled former White House employee." Guys, the president weighed in from New Jersey, calling Omarosa a lowlife, and now the nation decides whether Omarosa is a whistleblower or a fame seeker, but national security analysts are debating whether or not she can be prosecuted for breaking these protocols, which would be a breach of law.
All right,
Steve, Ainsley, Brian.
Thanks, Griff. How long did it take you to dry off after yesterday's downpour?
Quite a bit. But there was no violence, so it was a good day.
Right, absolutely. But you need a lot of terry cloth.
One thing to be said about Omarosa, though, is she's a bookseller. Her book comes out tomorrow as the White House investigates whether or not they could legally prosecute her. The thing about, she probably had top secret clearance. And the thing about applying for clearance is you understand the security protocols. And one of them is you cannot take a recording device inside there. So in that respect, the worst thing that could happen is she would lose her top secret clearance. But then again, I don't think she's going to need it for her book tour.
Well, the national security experts say it was a violation. It is worrisome. It was surreptitious. But they say no specific laws were broken.
Well, a couple of things. You'd like to know if the book is fact or fiction, fiction or nonfiction. And so far, Frank Luntz says, I'm quoted in it. It never happened. And Katrina Pearson is evidently quoted in the book. She says it never happened. So there might be some credibility issues there.
Also, Sean Spicer said completely fictional. He was quoted in there as well.
Right. So it's us first. Then we'll see if this is more than a two-week story.
Well, I mean, she's got to have a big, grand story in order to sell a big, grand book, right? And that means more money. She is upset, clearly, that she was fired. You can hear the recording of her being fired. She said that she was being threatened. I didn't feel that way when, I mean, they fired her because of some things that she had done. Violations that she had done, and I'd like more information on that. What are those violations?
Like, for example, John Kelly comes up and says in that, he goes, so severe, you know, those ethical violations. She didn't say, what are you talking about? Because maybe she didn't want him to reiterate it, and if he did, that tape probably wouldn't come public. Number two is, I'm wondering, for the Situation Room, should they be more than taking your word? Should you be, just like a TSA, if it's that important, can you pat somebody down?
You can't have a metal detector outside. There's personal responsibility. You know the rules. You have agreed to the rules. If you're not supposed to take them in, you don't take them in.
And you can use your phone to record.
So everyone's got to go by the rules. I mean, you can't go by that. I'm going by the rules of the TSA.
If somebody is entrusted, has the top secret clearance to go into the Situation Room, they know the rules. She broke the rules. Now, whether or not she's going to be prosecuted, that's one thing, you know, that's up to the White House. It would look like sour grapes, but nonetheless, if they don't go after her, what's to stop somebody in the future?
But the rules aren't enough to reinforce it. From now on, if tomorrow they're not going through
so
people...
So you want an armed guard patting people down?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just pat people down. Just listen, what do you have on you? You can't put, by the way, when you go to the White House, you got to hand in your phone.
You pat down the vice president.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Put it this way, you have to hand in your phone. You have to hand in your phone before you go to the White House at the end of the day.
They have lockers.
So when you go in there, if you still have your phone, you should be...
And the reason that you're thinking all of this is because you can't trust anyone anymore.
Right.
These are people that worked for the president. They worked in his administration. He should be able to trust them not to record or not to do something that he doesn't know about.
What about the president's phone?
Should the president be bringing the phone in?
He's the president.
No,
he's got a phone.
He should not be bringing the phone into the Situation Room.
And let us know what you think about Omarosa. Do you think she's telling the truth? What did you think about that interview on Meet the Press yesterday? She was known as a backstabber, a villain, a leaker on that show, The Apprentice. She was fired 3 times. Do you think she has credibility?
All right. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about Devin Nunes from California. He is the House Intel chair. He was on television yesterday reminding people, he's shocked that there simply is not much publicity, given that all the evidence seems to point at collusion. Collusion with top officials at the Barack Obama Department of Justice and FBI with people regarding this dirty dossier that was just opposition research. Lindsey Graham says the president's got to declassify. Here they both are yesterday.
Bruce Orr was at least unethical. We need a special counsel to look at all things Department of Justice and FBI when it came to the Trump investigation, particularly the counterintelligence investigation.
So here you have information flowing from the Clinton campaign, from the Russians, likely I believe was handed directly from Russian propaganda arms to the Clinton campaign, fed into the top levels of the FBI and Department of Justice to open up a counterintelligence investigation into a political campaign that has now polluted nearly every top official at the DOJ and FBI over the course of the last couple of years.
So what he says there needs to be an investigation. He also, the President of the United States himself, warned on Twitter on Saturday he may have to get involved if the FBI does not comply with requests by Judicial Watch to turn over information, text messages from former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. They've been asking for him, but nonetheless the Department of Justice has been stonewalling, and the President said on Twitter on Saturday, I might have to get involved.
All right, so Republicans are saying that Hillary Clinton, she was the one doing the colluding. The claims that they used, the dossier, were unverified. The FBI deceived the FISA court by not disclosing that the Democrats were the benefactors of the dossier. And they're saying, and Lindsey Graham is saying this, that it was unethical for the DOJ to have their #4 guy, Bruce Orr, investigating Trump and then being married to the person who funded the dossier.
All right, Michael McCasey weighed in yesterday, and he says he cannot wait for Bruce Orr, essentially, to get on, to get his moment. He expects him to take the 5th. He also said, I would expect for him to explain his relationship with Steele. But Bruce Orr, really, it seems to be unexplainable what he actually did. He also said there's a lot that really begs for disclosure, particularly when you consider the FISA warrant that the Department of Justice obtained on Carter Page, who was never charged with anything. So that's the former Attorney General saying you have to disclose. The president really, so being as of today, if the election was today, he'd probably have the Republicans have a hard time holding on to the House. If the House goes to the Democrats, this is buried for at least 2 years. So there is a time limit on it.
You also might think that the president doesn't want to do anything drastic before Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation, because he wants to make sure that happens,
right.
And then maybe right after that.
Rudy Giuliani will come on today at 7:30 with us. We'll ask him all these questions. He'll talk about it.
Got a ton of questions for him. Indeed, America's mayor is going to be joining us live. All right, 6:10 now here in New York City. And Jillian, good morning to you.
Good Monday morning to you. Following a number of stories right now, and including new details on the plane that was stolen straight from Seattle Tacoma Airport. The FBI recovering the data recorder from the crash site. Investigators hoping it will provide more clues as to why he flew the plane onto the ground. The remains of airport employees Richard Russell now confirmed to be among the wreckage. The Horizon Air employee stole the plane Friday, performing daring flips before crashing on a remote island. No one else, thankfully, was on board. A Fox News alert now. Another deadly weekend in Chicago, even after the city deploys hundreds of extra police officers amid a surge in gun violence. At least 29 shootings rocking the city from Friday evening through Sunday afternoon. Those shootings killing 2 people. The city adding 600 officers to patrol crime-ridden neighborhoods after dozens of shootings last weekend. Iconic singer Aretha Franklin reportedly gravely ill. Showbiz 411 reporting the Queen of Soul's family is rushing to her side. The 76-year-old has battled health problems over the years, canceling concerts last summer. The iconic singer was the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. Brooks Koepka wins his first PGA championship. The U.S. Open champion closing out the edge of your seat competition, shooting 16 under par. Koepka getting a surprise from his mom after winning. The two sharing a nice hug, you can see. He had no idea she was at the event. Koepka's victory comes after fending off a big push from Tiger Woods, who finished just 2 shots back in second place. So look at your headlines. Send it to you.
Now they say he's favored to win the Masters next year.
We'll see.
Get your tickets now. I tried to get my tickets. I did the lottery thing. I've never won them. Have y'all ever tried it for the Masters?
No. But if you get them, you can take us.
I would love to. That would be fun. We'll take the show on the road.
Did you apply for 4?
I did.
They're a fortune. I read online.
I don't remember. I think you have to put your credit card in, I think, and then they charge it at the end. But I was like, I don't care what they are. I'll figure that out later. You know? I'll call my dad to help me out later if I need.
That's a good idea. All right, thanks, Jillian. Coming up on this Monday, President Trump on the offense, hitting Russia, Iran, and Turkey with brand new sanctions. Former CIA station chief Daniel Hoffman's going to break down the impact. Coming up next.
And Nancy Pelosi says the media is trying to block her dream job again.
I know NBC has been on a jag of this. This is one of their priorities, to undermine my prospects as Speaker.
Media bias? Dan Bongino here to react. All right, President Trump putting the U.S. on offensive on the world stage. Listen to this. Imposing new sanctions on Turkey, Iran, and Russia within 48 hours. Fox News contributor, former CIA station chief Daniel Hoffman served in Moscow, Iraq, and Pakistan. Here now to react. First off, Daniel, 3 in a row. First, we'll go with Russia. We have the meeting in Helsinki. We had sanctioned them before because of the poisoning in London and because of the invasion of Georgia, because of the invasion of course, Ukraine. Why now?
Well, these follow-up sanctions are just simply required by legislation passed in 1991. Russia joins really good company, Syria and North Korea, 2 states that used chemical weapons against their own citizens. And for that reason, we're required to follow up with pretty tough sanctions.
Right. They're going to retaliate. They're going to retaliate. Do they have any leverage?
Well, Prime Minister Medvedev has said that Russia is thinking about taking other other actions against us. He's talked about economic, political, and other means, kind of ominous of him. So Russia could certainly take other action against us, and we always have to be prepared for their aggression against us in cyberspace and other places.
Right, and especially stuff that you don't see directly from them. Next, Turkey, a NATO ally. We're not happy with the with Erdogan for many different reasons, but going after them on aluminum and steel tariffs to punish their economy over a Christian pastor, is that a good trade-off?
That's a hard one for me. Turkey is an important NATO ally. We've had our issues with them, particularly over Syria. They're allowing transit to radical Islamists, our support to the Kurds. They want to extradite Gulen from Pennsylvania, and we don't see any reason why we should be doing that. And of course, they've been holding Pastor Brunson since 2016. But what you'd really like is for some diplomacy to work this out rather than inflict more harm on Turkey's free-falling currency and their economy writ large. Russia will try to take advantage of that.
They've already contacted Turkey as soon as those sanctions came out to try to get that weapons defense system in, perhaps, or provide some financial assistance. Keep in mind, too, I'm more concerned of protecting the Kurds. They actually fight for us, and they've been targeted by Erdogan. Next, Iran. We are going to go after them in European Union to back us on this. They so far have stood up and said we're going to stay with the agreement. Where do you think, what's our next step?
Right, on Iran, we are really damaging their economy. And the Europeans aren't with us, neither is China or Russia, so that'll make it a bit of a challenge. But the Iranians are really struggling. Their currency's in free fall. The economy's struggling. They've got higher unemployment and growing protests. What I would highlight, too, though, is sanctions are really a powerful tool, especially when our economy is so strong, but they need to be combined with other military diplomatic measures to achieve maximum strategic effect. I think with Iran, we're doing that by messaging the Iranian people and pushing back on Iran in the region.
Daniel, last thing, 20 seconds. This SWIFT financial system, we're going to deny them access to it. Some say this is very substantial, matters a lot. What do you think?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I mean, we're trying to push the Iranians really hard, and Secretary Pompeo has said that they need to stop their nuclear enrichment, stop their nuclear ballistic missile program, and their support to proxy militants, withdraw from Syria. We've said we're not about regime change, but about behavior change. At the end of the day, my personal view is that those are all existential parts of Iran's national security strategy, and it's going to take ultimately a different regime to make those changes that we're demanding.
Right.
But, you know, we'll see. I think we're pushing them hard on the economy.
Right, absolutely. We'll look for that coming down. They're chanting anti-Iran slogans, not anti-American slogans on the streets. Daniel Hoffman, thank you. Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead, we're going to be talking about parents and teachers and a subtle plan to go after President Trump in the classroom. We'll describe it in just a moment.
If you
Time now for some big headlines at 6:24 here in New York City. First up, the U.S. now stepping in after the Taliban has launched a massive attack in Afghanistan. A U.S.-led NATO mission hitting the terror group with air and drone strikes just days after the Taliban killed more than 200 people on 4 different fronts. In other news on this Monday, President Trump set to sign a huge defense bill today at Fort Drum in upstate New York. There's the commander-in-chief. The $717 billion bill will clear the way for military pay raises, an increase in equipment, and many military improvements as well. And finally, third story, check out this dramatic video right here showing a Mexican Navy helicopter chasing down drug smugglers and traffickers speeding toward a beach and then running off after realizing they were spotted. And there they go, running off. And here comes the chopper. Over 4,000 pounds of cocaine on their boat. Only one arrest was made. The rest got away, Ainsley.
Wow. Thank you so much, Steve.
You bet.
Is there anti-Trump bias in the classroom? According to the Federalist, emails between a group of public school teachers, history teachers up in Massachusetts, they pledged to reject the call for objectivity while they conspired to hide their prejudice. One teacher reportedly writing to his colleagues, quote, "I'm finding it really difficult in the current climate to teach kids to appreciate other perspectives. The other viewpoint might just be blatantly racist." Our next guest is outraged by all of this. He is a parent to one of the students in that school. Ed Urquiola is with us. Thank you so much, Ed, for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. How was this exposed? These teachers, they're pledging not to support this president after he was inaugurated. They're pledging to reject objectivity, and they're teaching your kids. How was it all exposed?
Well, for me, it started a couple of years ago when a group of kids, a small group of kids, went to the Trump rally, and there was a picture taken, and all the kids were branded on the internet by dozens of other fellow students with anti-Semitic and hateful remarks. In my case, my son is Jewish, and he was branded a Nazi, photoshopped onto his hat. It went all over the internet. There was multiple comments made by other student bodies supporting this and encouraging it. And essentially, we had strong meetings and conversations with the schools in Newton. They refused to really do anything, in my opinion, to correct the situation. And this isn't a town that likes to call themselves no place for hate and accepting and tolerant. However, in this case, nothing was done. More recently, as you've discussed, a series of emails have come out that originally not only the student body has these feelings, and kids make mistakes, they can be corrected, but when this is a systemic biased against anything Trump and anybody who has different beliefs than their own, that's what I call hate and something that should be addressed.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. One of the teachers writes, I read one in the intro, another teacher writes, I am concerned the call for objectivity may just inadvertently become the most effective destructive weapon against social justice. So now that they're exposed, do they have any business being in the classroom teaching your children?
I don't believe. I think they need to be re-educated and disciplined to some degree when it affects, the classroom, and the kids are being bullied and called a Jewish kid is being called a Nazi. Yeah, that's the only reason. There was no behavior, and through the course of the year, these kids were intimidated by teachers. These were anecdotal examples, but now we have quantifiable information that there is systemic bias in the schools, and something should be done about it. They can issue statements of inclusion and diversity, but when we have proof sources and documentation that show it's otherwise, then that's something that should be addressed.
Yeah, whatever happened to reading, writing, and arithmetic? This is getting just out of hand. The principal did respond. I'll read the principal's quote. The email exchange demonstrates our teachers discussing ways in which to allow thoughtful discussion and exploration of different perspectives on controversial topics while ensuring students know that any form of hate speech is unacceptable. We support our teachers' emails and ongoing dialogue about these values, and we support their right to grapple with these issues. What do you think about that, Ed?
Well, issuing statements that sound nice is one thing, but as I mentioned earlier, when there's proof and there's documentation that suggests otherwise, that there's systemic hate and bias in the school in a place where that is not supposed to be tolerated, it doesn't really hold that much water to me.
Should they be fired?
I don't know. They don't work for me, but I don't think I would hire them for my business.
Have you thought about taking your children and putting them in a different school?
No, I don't think that I should leave because of their behavior. I think we'll stay right where we are.
All right, we wish you all the best. Thank you so much, Ed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Antifa protesters marched through Washington with a new rallying cry. No USA at all, they're chanting. And Dan Bongino is fired up about that. He's on deck coming up. Plus, nothing, not even monsoons, will stop that bride from walking down the aisle. Look at that.
So you have your headphones, chair.
Those are some of the counter-protesters yesterday at the United the Right Rally 2, which as it turned out, there were more counter-protesters and actual white nationalists who showed up, only about 40, for the rally inside the northwest corner at Lafayette Park. Dan Bongino, former New York City police officer, former Secret Service agent, and the host of the Dan Bongino Show. Dan, what did you make of what the Antifa people were shouting yesterday as they were heading toward Lafayette Park?
Well, Steve, for people who follow the Democrat Party and the liberals within the Democrat Party for a living, like I do, this is nothing unusual at all. Steve, this is who the Democrats are. The fact that they're openly discussing it is the only real news story here. They've always been about open borders because, and I have to make this crystal clear, the Democrat Party is not about immigration. They are about votes. Immigration to them is only about votes. It's not about the humanity of people, compassion, jobs, anything.
I think the people who are protesting, though, I think that's Antifa. I don't know that they identify it as Democrat.
It doesn't matter. That is what I'm trying to get at is this Antifa is considered radical, right? By most sane people who see what they do. The point I'm trying to make is this is who the Democrats are. They're one and the same. Whether they identify as Democrats or Democrats identify as them is entirely irrelevant. Right. Democrats have pulled the wool over American eyes forever, making people believe there's some moderate, all pro-worker party. They're not. They are pro-votes and pro-power. That's it. This is who the Democrats are.
Well, Nancy Pelosi says the Dems are for the people. Listen to this. This is what she said.
Democrats are for the people.
What does that mean?
Democrats are for the people. It means we are for the people, having lower health care costs, reducing the cost of prescription drugs. Democrats are for bigger paychecks by building the infrastructure of America, creating good-paying jobs. It's not that we don't know what we stand for. It's how do we convey the message? And every day we have a fight. What we have to do is brag about it more.
They have to brag about it more, she says. What kind of a message is that? What do you make of what she's saying?
Well, has there been a figure in American politics in the last 30 years that's been more damaging to their party than Nancy Pelosi? I mean, she has almost single-handedly destroyed the Democrats' brand. But what's almost tragically comical about that clip is for the people, the Democrats, everything the Democrats stand for is against you and for the government. I mean, let's just talk about it practically. Take the big three, right? The economy. They want more of your money, not less. In other words, they're not for the people, they're for the government. On health care, they passed Obamacare, which took the power away from you and put it in the government bureaucrats' hands, telling you the kind of insurance you could buy and penalizing you for buying it. Education, the Republicans generally, conservatives stand for school choice. They don't stand for any of that. They stand for centralized bureaucratic power over the education system. So saying the Democrats are for the people is like a joke. They don't stand for anything. They only stand against you and against Trump.
It is kind of odd that somebody who has been a leader for a while has something as generic and benign as for people. It was just bizarre that she didn't have like 9 things ready to go. So then she went on to say, I know why there is such an attack on me as a prospective new speaker. It's media bias. Listen.
First of all, let me just say this, and I know NBC has been on a jag of this. This is one of their priorities to undermine my prospects as speaker. But I do not think our opponents should select the leaders of our party. The Republicans are spending millions, tens of millions of dollars against me because they're afraid of me, because I outraise them in the political arena, because I outsmart them at the negotiating table, and because I'm a woman who is going to be a seat at that table.
That's right. Republicans don't like women. It is, in fact, they're boosting her image in the hope that people will say a vote for a Democrat in their county or in their district will elevate Nancy Pelosi. So she's got it backwards.
Yeah, you know, Brian, listen, you know, He-Man needed Skeletor, right? Rocky needed Apollo and Clubber Lang. Like,
Popeye needed
everybody
Pluto.
needs a... Popeye needed Pluto. Everybody needs a foil, right? The Republicans have the perfect one in Nancy Pelosi, and how convenient for her to immediately, by the way, play the victim card. Wait, is that a serious comment? The media is going after Nancy Pelosi, the left-wing media? Give us a break. And then secondly, to play the misogynist card is really just disgusting. It's absolutely not true. But Pelosi's done it to herself. The crumbs comment, defending MS-13, the famous Obamacare. You got to pass it. till you find out what's in it. These are gaffes, she said, not us.
Yeah, well, she's not just going after the media. She's going specifically after NBC because they did a story, I think, on Friday about how 51 Democrats, including 9 incumbents, had said that they would not vote for her for Speaker. Dan, how about this? USA Today, one of the most popular newspapers in the United States of America. Look at this. USA opinion contributor Tina Dupuy wrote this. Donald Trump is proof that the U.S. presidency is broken and democracy is in peril. It's time to amend the Constitution and abolish the presidency. What do you think of her idea?
You know, Steve, this kind of commentary really infuriates me because people have this personal beef against Donald Trump that they let cloud their judgment. Think about it. I know exactly where she's going with this. There's this line of thinking with the left that Trump is some kind of tyrannical fascist. If in fact he is the worst one in the history of civilized and uncivilized humanity. What kind of a fascist and tyrant gives you back more of your money, gives you back more of your health care, tries to shrink the government bureaucracy, by the way, and gets government red tape out of your way? Isn't the whole purpose of tyranny and fascism and a broken presidency to empower the tyrant, not disempower him and empower the people? If anybody broke the presidency, it was Obama, usurping powers on immigration, campaigning for 8 straight years instead of governing and building relationships. Obama broke it. Trump has been returning the power back to the people. This is an absurd piece of commentary.
Yeah, we tried to having a democracy without a president. It didn't work. We quickly needed another convention, and then we got one named George Washington. Lastly, you just know one thing, that if the Democrats win the House, there is no way Nancy Pelosi is not Speaker. Don't believe the 51 votes. Don't believe anything. She is going to be Speaker if they win.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Brian, she's been great at raising money. She is a great foil for the Republicans, but she can raise a lot of money, and she did push through Obamacare. But, you know, it's unfortunate for the Democrats because she really is destroying their brand completely everywhere outside of San Francisco and New York.
San Francisco's going well, too.
All right. Dan Bongino, who is safely down in Florida right now. Dan, thank you very much for joining us live. Have a good week.
Thanks.
So no borders, no USA, and no presidency anymore.
But lots of Jillian.
Lots of Jillian.
Yeah. I don't know. Would I stay or would I go? Who knows?
It's going to be up to you.
I think we'll keep you.
Thank you. Good morning. Okay, let's get you caught up on a story we continue to follow. President Trump's lawyer says he's open to talking to special counsel Mueller under limited conditions. But Rudy Giuliani says the president won't sit down for an interview after September 1st.
September 1st was the date that Bob Mueller gave me. That'll keep us clear of the elections. It can get done by early September. They have all the information they need to write a report and either clear the president, raise questions, do whatever they want to do.
Rudy Giuliani will join us later this morning to discuss this further. Stay tuned for that. A Democratic gun control advocate accused of shooting her husband to death. Former Georgia congressional candidate Kelly Collins charged with murder after the man who was also her campaign treasurer was found dead. Officials say Collins was made the sole beneficiary of his insurance policy just weeks before his death. The Democrats' failed platform included strict gun control measures to protect the community. And God may soon be getting a place back inside Alabama schools. One county school board working to craft a policy next month that would allow them to display the U.S. motto, "In God We Trust." This coming after a state law gave schools the option to do so. Legal battles are expected as critics want to separate church and state. Tennessee recently passed a similar law requiring the motto in all schools. A wedding that is truly unforgettable. Look at this. An officer becoming a bride something blue after saving her from a flooded road in New Jersey. The newlyweds facing rapidly rising waters, forcing the bride to crawl out of the car's sunroof in her gown. She safely makes her way from one vehicle to the other without getting her dress or shoes wet. That's impressive, actually. Overseas, though, a monsoon not stopping a bride from walking down the aisle in the Philippines. I don't know, Ainsley, would you want to walk down the aisle in all that water?
I'm just worried about their dresses.
I know.
Gosh.
Somebody's going to get electrocuted.
Yeah, but you never wear it again.
True.
You know, you do what you do is just use a hair.
The first video, they had already finished their wedding. So if she did get her dress wet, it would not have been as big of a deal. But she walked away with a dry dress.
I know.
This poor girl She wanted to marry him. She loves the
story to tell, though, I guess.
No kidding. Of the thousands of people who got married yesterday, she's the one who got on
What
TV.
do they say? Through hell or high water, I'm doing it. There you go.
Or ankle deep.
All right. Jillian, thank you very much. Meanwhile, a rally cry for Supreme Court Justice nominee Brett Kavanaugh. Meet students who are rallying to support him. A couple of them coming up next.
That was nice of Lincoln to read to his son. And President Trump hosting nearly 200 bikers at the New Jersey Golf Club. What was that like? Well, two of the bikers who met the president are live on our plaza. It was ready, so they got invited in.
Students throughout the country rallying in support of President Trump's upcoming Supreme Court nominee, Judge Brett Kavanaugh, this weekend amid mounting calls from the left to block his confirmation. Here now with more on their Justice for Life tour is we've got Students for Life of America, President Kristen Hawkins and member Sadie Shields. She's from West Virginia. Ladies, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, Kristen, let's start with you. Why do you want to see Judge Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court?
Well, this is a very important issue for the pro-life movement. You know, we were there at the Supreme Court moments after Judge Kavanaugh's nomination was confirmed and announced, and we actually saw the pro-abortion leaders shipping out boxes of pre-printed signs opposing every single one of the shortlist candidates. We wanted to go out there to key states to remind our senators not to play politics. It's their duty to confirm well-qualified, strict constitutionalists like Judge Kavanaugh, and also to remind them that this generation in our 1,200 chapters on college campuses across the country, we're pro-life, and we want a Supreme Court that protects life and law.
But Sadie, you know, this is you're in a political town. It's a political game right now. The Democrats will do everything they can to try to stop this guy from becoming a permanent member of the Supreme Court.
Yes. That's right. And so why don't you tell Steve what happened this week?
So for the most part, we had a lot of positive feedback. We went door to door knocking and talking with West Virginians across the state. And we had a lot of them say that they wanted Judge Kavanaugh to be our next Supreme Court justice.
Kristen, ultimately, do you want to see the Supreme Court revisit Roe versus Wade and overturn it and then send it back to the states, as I have heard many on your side say?
Sure. Well, I don't believe abortion is a political issue. It's a human rights one. The Supreme Court and 7 male justices in 1973 made it a political issue and really transformed American politics ever since. We want to see the decision of abortion go back to states where voters can decide whether or not they want abortion to be legal under what circumstances. And when that happens, our 1,200 chapters will be there, serving women in crisis and passing laws to protect women and children from the predatory abortion facilities.
All right. Very good. Kristen and Sadie, we thank you both for visiting us today from our nation's capital. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 10 minutes now before the top of the hour. Socialism continues to grow within the Democratic Party, some say. But Democrats supported by Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just lost their races. So what does that say about that movement? A debate in the next hour. And President Trump hosting nearly 200 bikers at his New Jersey golf club over the weekend. What was it like? Well, it was rainy. Two of those bikers who met the president are live on our plaza where it's currently dry. We're going to go out and talk to those two guys next on Fox and Friends.